What's happening, guys? And another greatest day of the year coming up this Friday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, obviously. We're offering up a huge discount over at WagerTalk right now to get my 30-day all-access pass for only $5.90 per day. That's every play across every sport, including all 5% top plays as well. So use code LUCKY, LUCKY, LUCKY at checkout to take advantage of that special offer, which knocks a massive $122 off the regular price. So happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone out there. Make sure and stock up on the Guinness and Jameson ahead of Friday. And until next time, as always, Slán Abhaile.
Dan, are you on here? Nope. Finally. Hey guys, Friday starts the weekend, and based on our YouTube stream, we have been live for a minute. So you guys got a really good look at me asking Dan if we're live. That is fun. So, well-oiled machine, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us on a Friday. March Madness is in full swing. So we're going to go over a bunch of props for UFC. We got NBA, we got NHL, and excited to be joined by my fellow prop masters. We've got Moneyline Matt from sportsmemo.com, and we've got Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. Gentlemen, let us get right into it. Andrew, you've got a pretty exciting weekend, and then I know you're going on a trip, so have a safe trip on that one. But I'm going to come to you first, and we're going to talk a little bit about the UFC method of victory props. We were talking off air about last week how Marab by decision was a nice cash. So a lot of times we look at these big money lines and then we kind of ignore the method of victory props. So talk to us about what you look for in the UFC method of victories.
Well, I know that Moneyline Matt covered this a little bit yesterday or last week on the show, but I wanted to talk about it because I feel like people only look towards this when you have big favorites, trying to get the juice down and things like that. But I still think that there's money to be made in these, and there's opportunities to look at where, you always ask somebody, if you like this guy to win, what's the pathway to victory, right? Similar to me with hockey. If I think this team's going to win, it's probably going to be in low scoring fashion. Different things like that. You kind of create different reasons why you think somebody's going to be successful. In certain situations, I remember a card when Sean O'Malley, Andy, when he fought against Peter Yan. I had a horrible card that day. It was awful, but I saved myself with a 5-1 winner with O'Malley via decision, via points. I did not think he was going to turn the lights off for Peter Yan. I thought that if anything, if he was able to win it, it would go decision. And even the odds on the fight to go to the decision were not the best. So then I could take a look at him to win. But if I think he's going to win, you look at even more specific. And I know that people will say some guys get a little bit too creative, a little bit too fancy with it. But I always think it's good to look at what are the skill set the guys have, what are they best at, and how are they going to win their fight. And this weekend, Jack Shore, he's around minus 600, depending on where you shop around. Now, I thought this was pretty incredible looking at it here. 5-1 inside the octagon. 75% of victories come inside the distance. His opponent, 50% losses come inside the distance. And Amirkhani fights have finished inside 2 rounds in his last 3 straight fights. So I just find it ridiculous that sometimes right now you can look at these numbers, look at the UFC, get a guy that's minus 600 on the money line, turn that into a minus 130, 135 for this fight to finish inside the distance. So people, gambling Twitter can get carried away with some of these method of victory wagers. But to me, I feel like the books are disrespecting Shore here. I'll take him to win inside the distance.
Nice, great stuff from Andrew McGinnis at WagerTalk.com talking about method of victory. Matt Qualis is joining us from SportsMemo.com. And Matt, you're going to talk about specific games, game situations, and how the prop markets align with them. Very important when you're looking at props. You got to do a little bit of predicting on the game script if you want to cash some of these prop tickets. So talk to us about how you look at specific games, the game situations, and how they align with the props markets.
Yeah, Andy. And today I think there's a great game on this slate that aligns perfectly with what I'm going to talk about. And that is the Atlanta Hawks and the Golden State Warriors. And as you look at games, it can also pertain to props. It can pertain to overs and unders. And with a game like this, with a total like a 247.5 total, on top of that, you have the Golden State Warriors, who have the fastest pace in all of basketball. The Atlanta Hawks are also a top 10 pace. And this is a Golden State Warriors team who on the road actually averages 124 points per game given up. So this is a trend that has been going on with the Golden State Warriors all season long. And when a trend is occurring like that, that's a trend that I definitely like to target. And for the Golden State Warriors as well, you look at that total, you look at how many points per game they're giving up, you look at the pace of play here on top of that, and then there's another key statistic with the Golden State Warriors that I like to look at, and that's turnovers per game. Because this Golden State Warriors team, when on the road, actually averages 16.4 turnovers per game. So because of that, the guy that I tend to shift to and look at, last week we had Trae Young. Trae Young got it done for us. That was awesome. But now we're looking at his counterpartner in DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray is one of the best defending guards. He's one of the best on-ball defenders in terms of getting steals, in terms of intercepting passing lanes, things of that nature. He's 12th throughout the NBA in steals at 1.5 per game. And his current PRA line is sitting at 29.5. And on the season, DeJounte Murray is actually averaging 20.6 points, 6 assists, and 5.4 rebounds, actually averaging over this current set line. I actually got this last night, so there's a slight chance it moved up to 30.5. I actually like it to 31.5. I think DeJounte Murray is going to go out and have a great game today. He's one of those guys where when you're matched up against the Golden State Warriors, and another trend or someone that I kind of like to pick on, he's great to bet on offense, but on defense, he's very susceptible, and that's Steph Curry. So anytime that there's potential to have a guard going against Steph Curry, that's someone that I like to target. And on top of that, the Golden State Warriors are one of the worst teams throughout the NBA at guarding the point guard. They're sixth worst in points given up to the point guard position per game. And that's important too because Trae Young and DeJounte Murray run somewhat of a hybrid. DeJounte Murray will run the first 5 minutes with Trae Young. He'll check out, and then when Trae checks out, DeJounte comes back in and runs that point guard spot. So he runs a little bit of both. And again, going back to the trends that we've picked up on, this Golden State Warriors team, you keep watching them, and you're like, okay, when is this team going to win on the road? When is this team going to win on the road? And it's just not happening. So because of that, I'm going to keep targeting them. And tonight, I really love the look of DeJounte Murray and that over points, rebounds, and assists.
Great information from Moneyline Matt. You can find him at sportsmemo.com. I'm going to talk about unders. And the topic, do not be scared of the unders. The unders are your friend in the props betting market. Too many times bettors, and I'm guilty of this as well. I keep trying to look more towards unders. If you followed our NBA plays, we've been doing more of those this week, and they've been hitting. And there is a NHL player, Andrew, you may know him, Proper Off on Philadelphia. He's got a point prop, and if you take his under, it's minus 185, and that sounds pretty juicy, except he only has 1 point in the last 10 games. And this prop is hit in 22 out of the last 30 games. I feel like everyone wants to take the big names on over points. Instead, you could just look at this guy that doesn't score any points and just cash night after night after night. And Matt, you did a great job breaking down some NBA props. There is a guy whose points, rebounds, and assist number is put where he's only hit this in 1 out of 7 games. This isn't a bench player. This isn't a role player. This is Joel Embiid. He has only gone over this points, rebounds, and assist total that they've put tonight 1 out of the last 7 games. He gets a great matchup against Charlotte tonight, but don't forget about the blowout factor. There's a chance that Joel Embiid is not playing in the fourth quarter. And sometimes these unders on these big name guys can be terrifying because it's 50.5 and you watch Joel Embiid have, 21 points and 7 rebounds in the first quarter. And then you don't realize that the game turns out to be a blowout. He pulls off the gas a little bit and then all of a sudden ends up with 47 PRA, which is a great game, except he comes in on the under. So when you're looking at all of these props, it's great to look at all of the overs, but don't forget about the values and the unders. They are all over the place. And some days there are more values on the unders than there are on the overs. So don't be scared of the unders. Embrace them, and your bankroll will probably be happy. So great stuff, guys. We're going to jump into a few more extended topics. Andrew, coming to you first. Listen, I don't look at the NHL assist betting markets. I primarily live in these shots on goal, and I'm probably missing out on some values and some good numbers. So let us know what's going on with the NHL assist betting and how you handicap those.
Andy, I just think that you should just keep doing what you're doing, brother, because it's working for you. So I don't think that you need to change what you're doing with the NHL prop market. But look, I talked about it last week, right? I discussed defenseman props, and of course, the defenseman props, a lot of it came to with the points and things like that. But I'll tell you what, Andy, this is the biggest thing for me, and it kind of correlates to what I was just talking about with the UFC method of victory. Is that really we're trying to get great prices, right? And I think you and I have spoken together before about the over 1.5s with the shot props in NHL right now and how those can be profitable and stuff. But I'm just kind of getting tired of going over some of my favorite shots on goal guys. And the average prices are minus 140, 50, 60, 70. That's really getting bothersome because, if your guy gets cold, if a guy that you're betting on quite a bit gets cold, it does damage your bankroll. So when you look at some teams that are playing lesser opponents, a bottom feeder in the league, chances are, if you think a guy's going to get lots of shots or be involved in the play, be out there on the power play, chances are they might get an assist as well. And I've talked about this before on the show, but I want to let people know that bet on hockey props, that shot props aren't the only way to go. And a good example of it is, Rasmus Dahlin. You can get him tonight at minus 105 to record an assist. You can get Pavel Buchnevich at plus 110, and he's hitting 70% of his last 10 games. You look across the list right now at all these different guys that it's just the price you get. Johnny Gaudreau from the Columbus Blue Jackets, one of their best players, is always out there on the power play, always involved in the play. You can get him at minus 125 to record an assist. Guys, those same players to get a point are like minus 200, 215. So the only difference is you're not going to be able to have them score a goal and account for you, but for a primary assist, secondary assist, and you know what's crazy, guys? In hockey, if you shoot the puck and it goes off the goalie's pads and then somebody else scores there, you still get the assist. I don't think that makes any sense. But that's considered to be an assist, even though you shot the puck off the goalie. Anyway, so there's lots of different ways to make money with the NHL prop betting market. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize how easy it is really to collect an assist and how much different the odds really are. So that was my topic for the NHL this week, and I think you can make a lot of money, and I have a best bet for us this week at the end of the show in the assist market.
I'm so happy you brought up Buchnevich because I'm doing the NHL show and I have him down to have a point and it's like minus 185 and I didn't even think about looking at the assist. So deleting right now and changing the play. So
7 of his last 10. 7 of his last 10.
Amazing. Great stuff from Andrew from WagerTalk.com. And yeah, Andrew's going to be doing our best bet at the end of the show. Matt, coming to you. Interesting. We don't really talk about conferences or divisions in NBA props, but you had said you wanted to talk a little bit about the Western Conference in the NBA. So you've been doing fantastic in the NBA. I always love your same game parlays, love the NBA content. So let's talk about specifically the Western Conference, the current value in the NBA future market.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Andy. And last Saturday on Wager Talk Last Call, I actually had someone ask a question about the Los Angeles Lakers and their future outlook to potentially make the playoffs. And not going to talk about potentially make the playoffs today, but I do want to talk about the odds to win the Western Conference. And I want to talk about the Western Conference specifically because a lot of these teams still have question marks or things up in the air heading into the playoffs. We're coming down that closing stretch right now. And obviously the Denver Nuggets look great. They just kind of righted the ship after a 3-game losing streak. Did it against Detroit and kind of did it late, but this is a Nuggets team who is great on offense. They have 4 or 5 guys who can score. They're starting to develop that bench a little more. But my biggest question mark for them is, one, they haven't been to the Western Conference Finals since 2020 when they were a younger team. They are more experienced now, but I tend to side with some of the more experienced squads when they get to the playoffs, going to the Western Conference, things of that nature. I still think they have to prove it. And then when you look at the Phoenix Suns, they're plus 310 to win the Western Conference Finals. They still have Kevin Durant out. And one rule that I've generally had with stars getting added to a lineup is you need at least one season together to kind of generate that chemistry, to get that flow, to actually go on that run throughout the playoffs, make it to the Western Conference Finals, win, and go to the NBA Finals. I'm not sure if the Suns can do that, especially with the injury to KD. Sometimes you're just like, man, that team is just that damn good. And this very well could be that Phoenix Suns team, but I do welcome you to go back, look at that old Miami Heat team. They lost their first year, so it can happen. And then again, you take a look at a team like the Los Angeles Clippers. Los Angeles Clippers are plus 460 right now. They have their key bench guy out in Norman Powell, and they've been rather inconsistent. If they can generate some chemistry, get on a little bit of a run going into the playoffs, they're just as dangerous as anyone. Then you look at the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors at plus 600. The Warriors still do not have Andrew Wiggins. This Golden State Warriors team is not the same defensively since Andrew Wiggins has been out. He's one of their key on-ball defenders, one of their wing defenders, generally takes the team's number one option as well. And then on top of that, he averages over 8 rebounds per game, so very key there. You talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. They're plus 800 with no Ja Morant or Steven Adams. That is a very unique look because this team's defense has changed drastically since Steven Adams has gone down. He's done a great job rebounding, locking down that paint. I think that's a very unique look with the Grizzlies at plus 800. But, of course, something could come out with Ja there, and then the whole thing blows up in your face. The Mavs are plus 1,200. I'm not really interested in that one. But the Lakers are plus 1,900 and have LeBron out still. They've made some key additions with D'Angelo Russell playing unbelievable basketball, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, one of the better on-ball defenders throughout the NBA. And then last but not least, the Sacramento Kings at plus 2,500. They've been disrespected all year. They've shown that they can go on the road and beat any team and are a very dangerous team at home, and that a guy like De'Aaron Fox is also becoming a superstar in this league. So when you look at this Western Conference, these Western Conference odds, I do think there's value to be found. And personally, I think it's with the Memphis Grizzlies, the Golden State Warriors, and yeah, that's probably where I would go here. I look at this list and I can see a lot of variations in the way that this Western Conference can go. And really it comes down to that team getting hot at the right time entering the NBA playoffs. So whatever team gets the hottest going into the NBA playoffs, that's probably going to be the team that I'm going to back, and I think the team you should look at as well.
Excellent NBA from the Western Conference from Moneyline Matt. You can find him at sportsmemo.com. I'm going to take a look at these streaks, and it's important to find the streaks and the props so you can cash, hopefully 8 out of 10. That's kind of what we're looking for. But when do we abandon props streaks in the NHL and NBA? Well, for me, there are a couple big telltale signs. The first is looking at the rosters of the teams, and anytime you have a player that's on a streak, and if a player is returning from injury or if another player goes out, anytime there's a disruption in the team's chemistry and in the team's roster, I get really, really cautious, especially when you add a player coming back from injury. Cam Reddish in the NBA is a good example of this. He was inserted into the starting lineup when Simons was out, but then when Simons is in, Cam Reddish goes back to the bench, and you can, forget about those overstreaks on Cam Reddish. The other telltale sign in the NHL is when the books make an aggressive move towards a prop. So, for example, shots on goal. If you've been riding a guy over 2.5 shots on goal, and you get up one morning and now all of a sudden the number is not 2.5 shots on goal, it's 3.5 shots on goal. I have to pause and take a really hard look at it, because that means that the streak is so long that the books are ready to make an incredibly aggressive move. And now you've lost kind of the value in that lower number, because even though the shot went up 1, that's still a 30% increase in the total. And even though you're getting plus money, it's also probably time for regression. If a shots on goal prop has gotten on the radar of the books, that means they've probably hit it 10, 12, 15, 16 times in the last, 17, 18 games. And that means we're ready for some regression. I used Tyler Toffoli and Backlund on the Calgary Flames example. Those guys have just been on incredible streaks, and they both hit last night, but I'm off of them because I need to now hit them 3 out of 4 games to turn a profit long term because the books have them so juiced. Backlund is now up to 3.5 shots on goal. And even if you split those two guys, you go 1-1, because of the juice, you're still losing money. So when I see those books make an aggressive move towards a prop, it's time for me to kind of get off that streak on the props. So, Andrew, I've been extremely happy with the results from that Toffoli streak and the Backlund streak. I'm probably not going to play him the rest of the year, but that's fine. I cashed a bunch of units. The bankroll is happy, clients are happy, but it's time to abandon the streaks here. So we're doing great on
Andy,
time, guys. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I branch off on that real quick?
Yes.
So one thing that I wanted to say is that's a great point by you, and it actually works for cold streaks as well. And a great example was last night. And Pascal Siakam had missed 7 games in a row. He typically has a line of 22.5. So I go and look at FanDuel, and he's got a line of 23.5. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. You miss 7 games in a row, and the books decide to boost his numbers to 23.5. So what did I do? It was a Pascal Siakam smash spot. I hammered Pascal Siakam. I actually did points, rebounds, assists just because it was the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're good defensively, but tend to struggle in terms of rebounding to the power forward position. So went with that, and, it was a Pascal Siakam spot. He went off. He had 24 points. He had 12 rebounds, smashed the PRA by the third quarter. And on the other hand, it worked with Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes had been playing very good. To your point, Andy, he was hitting his total over and over, and it was just one of those regression spots. So it was one of those spots where Scotty Barnes kind of had been hitting his PRA line consistently around 4 or 5 games, and then got to that spot. The books brought it down. They brought it down a number. So you're kind of like, why would they do that? That doesn't make sense. And it was just one of those regression spots. So I just wanted to point that out with Siakam last night because it works with cold streaks as well. And if you see those numbers go up, it's generally because they might know something.
Yeah, the books are telling you where the market is at. So, what's the saying? When someone tells you who they are, listen. So when the books are telling you that this is due for regression, pay attention to it. They're giving you a lot of information there. We're doing great on
It's
time,
funny,
so I'd
Andy,
like to yeah.
I was gonna say in the NHL, they just I feel like they just don't pay attention, and then all of a sudden they just it's like they're sleeping and they just wake up one day and just jack the price up. Forever it'll be minus 120, and you wake up one day it's like 160. I swear, Matt, in the NHL they don't make any adjustments slowly. It's like right from 125 to 160. They're not gonna wait to 130, 140, 150. Yeah, it goes right there. But I will say the streaks are awesome, and I use streaks because streaks can prove to you that a guy in the NBA is shooting a lot. He's getting the good looks. They're looking for him in the offense, or NHL, this guy. But also, this might be a guy that's, hit his over shots on goal in NHL and, one of his last 5 games. But knock, 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 here come the Anaheim Ducks at the door. And it's a really good team to bounce back against. So just as much as you're looking to ride streaks, I like to ride streaks as far as just fading certain teams. In the NBA, certain teams I know to just bet rebound props against. And, I pretty much take NHL shot props against Columbus and Anaheim on repeat. I don't even know. I don't care who it is. I'm going to pick one player that's playing the Anaheim Ducks and bet against them on their prop. Because let's face it, anyone that plays Anaheim right now, Andy, the money line is ridiculous. So what do? Turn to the prop market and you can find a way to make money there.
Well, Columbus plays Anaheim today. Fire away. I mean, just it's like a fantasy hockey paradise in that game. Shots on goal, assists, everything. So
and nobody will score. They'll get shots, but nobody will score a goal.
Nobody will score. Yeah, it'll be 1-1 and going into a shootout with 83 combined shots on goal. I wanted to talk a little bit of UFC. We've got plenty of time here. I was going to talk a little bit about some of the UFC props, and I've really enjoyed this year really attacking the parlays of fights to start round 2 and finding some of the value in these if we can find 2 or 3 fights. And there's a pretty easy one that's on the board right here. And this is just, I'm kind of using this as an example, and I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on some other ways to attack the UFC props, because it feels like this year they've really increased the amount of props that we can bet on. I mean, they have same game parlays now on every single fight on the card, which is a trap if I've ever seen it. But
Yes.
but so here's
Yes.
here's two fights that are very reasonably juiced, and you parlay them together to get minus 109. First is Juliana Miller and Veronica Macedo. I followed Juliana Miller throughout The Ultimate Fighter when she won that season. She's raw. She's a great athlete. She doesn't have a ton of finishing ability, especially at this UFC level. You know, her striking is her weak spot, so she tries to work takedowns, and she's very aggressive on her takedowns, and she does a pretty good job, but she's just not quite strong enough to get these finishes. And Veronica Macedo's only had one fight in the UFC, and Miller is really tough. She's great on the ground. She does know how to defend strikes and level change if she's getting pieced up. There's only minus 300 to start round 2, and I don't see a finish in that one. And then you look at this Muhammad Makayev and Philo fight, and that's minus 225 to start round 2. Makayev has a shoulder injury. He said that he's healthy enough to make it through this fight. That doesn't sound like a guy that's ready to finish. And Makayev is primarily a grappler, and he likes to go to the ground. He's fought some pretty easy competition that he hasn't finished early. And Philo's coming off of Contender Series, and he's good. Makayev this is not going to be an easy walk in the park round 1 finish. This Philo is very good at defending. And if you parlay those together to both start round 2, you're getting minus 109. That's an easy play for me that's on the card on both these fights. And all they have to do is start round 2. Like if they get finished, in the first 20 seconds of round 2, you still cash that one. So I've been finding a lot of success in these to start round 2. So if you want to look at Miller and Macedo, parlayed with Makayev and Philo, both to start round 2, I think that's a good way to attack some of the props. Matt, it's a huge card. So we got tons of fights, which means tons of props. I don't know if there were any more that were kind of jumping out at you, or some markets that you've been attacking recently.
Yeah, so one that I was definitely looking at was the Justin Gaethje and Fiziev fight. I think that's a great fight. I think that's another one with an exact outcome can be very probable there. As we know, Justin Gaethje is someone who's just going to be kind of throwing absolute bombs away. He's someone who's going to be looking to knock his opponent out. But, when Justin Gaethje has somewhat struggled, it's been with more experienced strikers. You go back and you look at when he got knocked out by Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is one of the better knockout or boxing fighters throughout the UFC, one of the cleaner strikers throughout the UFC. And that's kind of what I see with Fiziev. He's very clean with his strikes. And one thing that he has that a lot of fighters don't have is the variation of strikes on top of that. So for me, I'm a huge Justin Gaethje fan. I always love to root for Justin. I think he's exciting. He's fun for the sport. But this is one for me where I'm going with Rafael. I think I'm looking at the exact outcome of victory, kind of like how Andrew was talking about earlier. The KO TKO is plus 140, and then you can get a double chance at KO TKO or submission at plus 110. So I do think this one is going to be a fight that does not go the distance. Justin Gaethje once again was at his press conference saying how excited he is to have a fight like this, to have a dance partner like this. So again, I don't think this one's going to go the distance either. And it's funny you brought up the Muhammad Mokaev shoulder injury, because that's something that I was looking at just the other day as well. And that's something where a minus 800 favorite coming out and saying he potentially dislocated his shoulder, I definitely send caution to the wind with that one.
Yeah, I mean, he should win, but I would expect this to be a decision. I don't see he certainly hasn't shown any KO power and, submissions, obviously, or, kind of his game. But even then, even when he's been healthy, he struggled with some of those submissions. So, yeah, keep an eye on that one. So, Andrew, do you have anything else you want to throw into the UFC card this weekend?
Well, I just want to say, if anybody can look at different apps or different fantasy type of like Prize Picks or Underdog Fantasy, anywhere that offers significant strikes landed, I think that fight that Matt just talked about could be one of interest for that type of prop.
Yeah.
That one's going to be an absolute bloodbath. I don't know how Justin Gaethje is even involved, and so I don't even know how he does it. Like I'm worried about his health when I watch his fights, but I guess that's the
I
case
agree.
for a lot of the fights that he's involved in. It's nuts. Like his chin is wild. I don't understand how. I mean, his fight against Michael Chandler, I was like so entertained, but also just like, how was one of these guys' heads not falling off right now? But let me just throw out a question for the panel. I don't know who you guys are on, if you guys like Usman or if you like Edwards to win, but let's be honest here. If Edwards wins, is it inside the distance? Because I don't think that I don't think he's winning by points, honestly. You think he can win by points, Andy? I think if he wins,
Edwards?
it's inside the distance again. If
Edwards
Leon
or
Edwards
Usman?
wins again, if
Oh.
Usman wins, it's by I think that if Leon Edwards wins, he has to put Usman out again.
I would agree with that. I thought you were talking about Usman. Yeah, I mean Usman obviously can win by points. It's gonna be pretty hard for Edwards to find 3 rounds to win. I mean, maybe one, possibly 2, but I mean we all know how much he was being dominated in that first fight before he lands the kick of death. I don't know, Matt. Do you see any way that Edwards can squeak out a decision?
It's pretty tough for me to see a decision. I watched that fight back last night, actually, and just to kind of be fresh on it heading into Saturday. And, to your point, Andy, he was getting absolutely dominated. The first round, he definitely found some success, but I also think that was due to the fact that Usman was just a little too cocky coming into that first round. He put himself in some susceptible positions. And coming back into this bout, I think Usman is going to be pretty clean. I think he's going to be focused. I don't think he's going to sleep on Leon Edwards once again. And, that's what's crazy about the UFC. It's that one small, tiny mistake can put your lights out. And although Leon Edwards did find some minor successes with like the jab and things of that nature, he never really rocked Usman up until that point. And I think that's why he was so cocky. Now that he got his lights shut out, I don't think he's going to be that cocky. And I think we're going to see a far better, a sharper Usman. And I personally think he's going to reclaim his title.
Yeah. I was just saying, like, plus 500 is the number I'm seeing, around that number for Edwards to win inside. So I just see, like, I don't want to try and be too fancy here, but I think if you think he's going to win, you might as well not bet him to win straight up on the money line. You might as well take him inside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to get to our best bet for the weekend. Matt, real quick, just tell everyone what you have up for this weekend and where we can find you at.
Yeah, right now I have 2 UFC plays locked and loaded for UFC 286. I have 1 NBA play, and definitely going to add a couple more NBA plays going into tonight. We have won the last 3 out of 4 days this week. So just looking to keep it rolling this Friday. We got another nice NBA slate. Like I said, a lot of high totals that I'm looking to attack, so go check that out over at Sports Memo.
I've got a 5% UFC play that is up for Saturday. And if you're watching this live, I have 2 4% plays up for college basketball, not men's, women's college basketball. We're plus 89 units this season. Number 1 at WagerTalk in college basketball. I know. And yet nobody wants to play the women's plays. You don't have to watch the games, guys, to cash these plays. Like, it's not a rule. You can just bet on them in cash and watch your bracket be blown away. And by the way, can I just say this? When I was watching the games yesterday, like, listen, we get it. You had Arizona going far in your bracket. We all did. You're not the only one whose bracket was busted. Like, it's okay. Like, the world is not crumbling around you. You weren't the only one that found the sleeper team in Arizona. Like, we all had them going to the Elite Eight and possibly further. So it's okay when upsets happen. You're not the only one that had it going. So,
Andy's
anyway,
a handicapper therapist. He's like, it's okay. It's going to be all right.
Yeah, like, oh man, the place I was at, everyone was like, "Oh, my bracket." It was like everybody's bracket in here is busted, guys. It's okay. Like you didn't lose any ground on your league. So, Andrew, you are in charge of the best bet this week. Let's close out this week's show with a winner, and we were going to do UFC. You change it up on us, and let's go to the NHL. What do we like to cash for today's best bet?
Yeah, real quick for this weekend, I do have 3-pack up in the UFC, which does include a 4% best bet there. NHL board, I don't really love it for today, but I'm already getting ahead of tomorrow's work. It's a huge slate here on Saturday in the NHL, so I will have plays up. as far as that is concerned. But for today's prop of the week, we're going to go with Robert Thomas from the St. Louis Blues to record an assist at plus 110. I talked about how profitable betting these assists can be and how you can get these great numbers on the assists compared to just betting a player to get a point. He's up there in the 180s, 190s to get a point. You get this plus 110 on him to record an assist. He's had an assist in his last 5 games. And before that, he had a great run as well. And 3 of his last 3 straight games, we saw him have 2, not just 1 assist, but 2. He's out there on the power play. He's one of the key players for this team. And they just recently traded away several guys. So he's pretty much the only guy left to create some offense. And as much as I'm fading the Blues as a team right now, I'm betting on Robert Thomas to have success tonight and get us an assist.
Excellent stuff from Andrew McGinnis at WagerTalk.com. We're going to see everyone next week. And, man, I really hope everyone has a great weekend of bets. It is a jam-packed weekend. Don't forget, you don't have to bet on every single college basketball game that's on TV today and over the weekend. It's okay if you sit out one of them. But seriously, hope just one of them. Yeah, just take a break from one of them. But don't forget to grab our plays with Andrew, myself, and Matt. We all have plays in all kinds of different sports, especially UFC. It is somebody even mentioned it in our chat, like, this UFC card is fantastic to wager on. I expect a lot of profits in this card, so take advantage of that. That's going to do it for us this week. Hope everyone has a great weekend and a safe weekend, and we will see everyone next Friday on Prop It Up.
What's happening, guys? In honor of the greatest day of the year coming up this Friday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, obviously. We're offering up a huge discount over at WagerTalk right now to get my 30-day all-access pass for only $5.90 per day. That's every play across every sport, including all 5% top plays as well. So use code LUCKY, L-U-C-K-Y, LUCKY at checkout to take advantage of that special offer, which knocks a massive $122 off the regular price. So happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone out there. Make sure and stock up on the Guinness and Jameson ahead of Friday. And until next time, as always, Slán Abhaile.